men faced. Because sex sells in ways that a story about women's rights does not, sports writers threaded their stories with sexual innuendo and sexist puns aimed at their male readership. Radio talk shows and TV commentators added fuel to the fire by ridiculing me and my cause. Cartoonists depicted me as an overly buxom woman peering up at hulking, hairy-legged men. Sports columnists hinted at my deficiencies, suggesting I lacked a moral compass, rather than accepting that the commissioner's policies merited scrutiny. What lady, these men asked, would think of invading a ballplayer's privacy? Had I replied, which usually I didn't, I'd have asked, what privacy? After all, dozens of male writers were in those locker rooms with ballplayers, as I needed to be to do my job. Pop culture bellwethers like Saturday Night Live, SNL, and The Tonight Show parodied my plea for equal treatment. SNL's comedienne Lorraine Newman, as the girl reporter, stood toe-to-toe with a bare-chested O.J. Simpson, who'd draped his towel around his neck. From the West Coast, Betty White wrapped a towel around her body to join her soaped-up host Johnny Carson in the shower. With Americans watching such comic portrayals and reading the caustic commentary, it's no wonder that our side had already lost in the court of public opinion before my case was heard by the judge. But then something remarkable occurred. We won in the only court that mattered, the one presided over by Judge Motley. On September 25, 1978, she ordered Kuhn to grant me the same access that he gave male sports writers. Equality, she observed, would not be achieved by putting me in a separate place and bringing players to me, as Kuhn wanted to do. The principle that Motley had invoked, that separate was not equal, was familiar to a judge who relied on the 14th Amendment in her many years as a lawyer fighting racial discrimination in the Jim Crow South. Locker room talk takes audiences inside of my story as we travel from Judge Motley's courtroom to ballparks where I was the only woman at nearly every game I covered. I also take us back to my childhood when I came to love baseball. As a girl growing up in the 1950s and 60s, I played and watched every sport I could, though baseball was always my favorite. I did this so much that I talked about sports like the boys did. Raised in the rural university town of Amherst, Massachusetts, I was a tomboy at a time when few girls in America competed in sports. However, in my town, we had competitive teams, so I played on nearly every team I could: volleyball, basketball, tennis, excelling in all of them. In my teens, I also watched civil rights protesters be attacked in the South, and heard Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech on the CBS Evening News. Each weeknight as my family ate dinner, Walter Cronkite brought the news to us, and my parents encouraged us to talk about what we saw. Similarly, I watched as the women's movement grew from small gatherings to loud, massive marches. By the time I graduated from Wellesley College in June 1973, the Vietnam War protests, in which I'd participated, were winding down, and women's court battles were knocking down our legal barriers so my generation could have it all. As we know, that turned out to be more myth than reality. Shirley Chisholm, who was the first Black woman elected to Congress, welcomed me into our revolutionary times with the marching orders she gave in her commencement speech to our all-women class. The myths which suggest that women are too fragile, too emotional to be advanced in our society have been exploded. Senseless stereotypes, dismissing members on the basis of sex and color to participate fully in the American system, have been broken one by one, especially during the past decade, she assured us. After sharing her efforts to advance racial and gender equality, this dynamic, petite woman peered down through her large spectacles and declared to all but our Black classmates, "If I can do it as a Black woman, you can do even more as educated white women." I left campus that afternoon with every intention of becoming involved. However, once I was hired at Sports Illustrated,